The only problem I have right now is my aromas was great.
And they're skinny.
You ready?
Okay.
Yes.
Good evening. Today is Monday, July 26, 2021. Welcome to this evening's regular meeting of the Oregon City Council. Let's begin tonight's meeting by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council for attendance this evening?
Mr. Davish?
Here.
Mr. Horniak?
Here.
Mrs. Pavlov?
Here.
Mr. Reeves?
Here.
Mr. Seaman?
Here.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Here.
Mr. Zale?
Here. Thank you. Please note that all members of council are present. Also joining us this evening are Clerk of Council, Ms. Tina Evans, Mayor Michael Safarian, our Law Director, Melissa Papura, Public Service Director, Mr. Paul Roman, our Zoning Commissioner, Mr. Jim Gilmore, our Police Chief, Mr. Brandon Began, Fire Chief, Mr. Denny Hartman, Assistant Fire Chief, Mr. Mark Mullins, and Assistant Fire Chief, Mr. Jim Wolf are also joining us. Council, the first order of business today is going to be a public hearing. We're going to open the public hearing at 7:07. This public hearing is for the application Z-811-21 for a zoning change from an R1 low-density residential district to an A1 agricultural district on a portion of the property described as parcel number 44-38497. The owner applicant is John Myers. The location is 6315 Corduroy Road. We're going to ask Mr. Gilmore if he can give us a brief overview of the application. Mr. Gilmore.
Sure. Thank you, Council President. The application went to the Plan Commission where they suggested that it would be approved for changing the zoning from R1 to A1, which is agricultural. This property has always been farmed, and the applicant simply wants to change the zoning back from R1 to A1. I believe this was all changed when we initially in the city created zoning districts. So again, it's always been a farm, it's always been farmed, and the applicant wants to change it back to A1. As you can see up on the screen, there is, in the green, is all the A1 property, and there is one, the 6111 has been changed in the past. So any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. At this point, I'm going to ask if there's anybody to speak in favor of the zoning change. If there's anybody here to speak in opposition of the zoning change. Council, do you have any questions for the administration on the zoning change?
Mr. President,
Mr. Horniak.
just looking at the map, and I did not get a chance to see the map or review that prior to this evening, so my apologies for that. The parcel in green was previously changed to agricultural, Mr. Gilmore? I'll say the one
Yeah,
that's kind of
you
out
know-
by itself.
And then I'm making it, yeah, I believe it has been. I do not know when it happened. I tried to look for records for it. I could not find it.
That one, Steve.
Yes.
Mr.
And the-
Myers, if you could turn around, which property is yours? Yeah, which, is that your property there? That, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's the property we're looking at.
Which one is it?
changing.
Point-
This one right here.
Okay, right there, yeah.
Okay. The four, I'm going to assume those are four parcels in between what would be the two ag zones. Are those still residential?
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes, I'm trying, yes, those are still, yes. The only ones that are ag are in the green.
In the green?
The rest is R1,
All right.
with the exceptions of the light blue, which is R2. Okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. Council, is there any further questions for the administration?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Reeves.
the only, well, it's going to stay agricultural, then, right? It's not a short-term period?
That is correct.
It's not, okay,
The intended use is to keep it as agricultural.
that's what I think.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Is there any further questions? Hearing no further questions, I will close the public hearing at 7:11. I will assign item number 84 of 2021 with ordinance number 84 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Authorizing a change in the district map for property located at 6315 Corduroy Road, parcel number 44-38497, from R1 Low Density Residential Zoning to A1 Agricultural District Zoning.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Horniak.
I move for passage of ordinance 84 of 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Second by Mr. Zale. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 84 of 2021?
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mrs. Pollock?
yes,
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes. Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance number 84, 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. We do have one person that signed in and wanted to do a presentation, a brief presentation on recycling. Mr. Dennis Wise, if you'd like to step forward. Mr. Wise is from Recyclops, a program that was brought in when we switched our curbside recycling to more of a collection system. They offer curbside recycling that people from the city of Oregon could contract with them directly. Mr. Wise.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and members of staff. Thank you for giving me this moment. So I handed everybody out a packet. Some of this stuff may be things that you've already seen in the past, but I want to make sure everybody knew what we were talking about, because it has been a period of time, at least 6 months, I believe, that we started a pilot here in Oregon. And even though it's titled Oregon, as long as people are close enough to the city and they're still within Lucas County, we'll also service them. But I'm here tonight to represent not only the company, but 30 families that are already here and using the program. And I'm here to ask for help, because we really need 100 families or 100 homes for this operation to operate at least at a break-even point. And I think that the city could really give us a hand in terms of making sure that people are aware. So an awareness boost or an announcement boost, and let the folks know that this meaningful environmental program option exists. We'd hate for, to have to pull out, but we simply cannot continue to go, forever with only 30 families involved. So we're asking the city to help us on that. I gave the mayor and the city administrator my card, so if somebody from staff wanted to contact me later and talk about how we might be able to do that, how you would be able to do that. We will also, after we have that discussion, we will do some things on our own, of course, in terms of marketing and things like that to try to boost that. But I really wanted to appear here tonight and tell you, we love the area. We think it's a fantastic area. And when an area loses that option, we really want to come in and try to fill that void so that folks, whether they're elderly, whether they're ill, or whether they just want that convenience of being able to have recyclables picked up at their home. That's why we're here. That's what we exist for. And I think you all know, how it works from a customer facing. It's $12 a month. It's every other week pickup. So some months it's 2 times, some months it's 3 times. And people do not have to segregate their items. And because we provide them custom bags to put the materials into, we tell them, don't bother putting the cardboard in the bags because it takes up too much room. Just flatten the cardboard. We'll take all the cardboard you have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Wise, we may have some questions. Does anybody on city council have any questions for Mr. Wise? Mr. Wise, do you offer services for commercial also?
We absolutely do.
Okay, what's your charge on a monthly basis for a commercial?
I can provide a range on that, but it's usually has to do with volume, because
Okay.
you have some businesses obviously that create a great volume and their rate is going to be different than a lot of times like churches. They usually have the same rate as homes, because most of the time it's just the bulletins that are being recycled, so it's paper and it's pretty easy. But if it's a big retail concern or something like that, the rates are a little bit different.
And if I remember correctly, I remember when Ms. Bin was on council, and I know Ms. Bin had reached out to you at that time. Did you just find a local provider that contracts with you to pick up the 30 homes? Is that how it's working right now?
So I'm sorry, I kind of just jumped ahead because I didn't know how much time I had. So our business is basically built on the Uber platform. So the reason why we're able to operate a business like this where municipalities can't is because we don't have the same cost metrics, right? We don't have the overhead of employees. We don't have the overhead of the big, huge trucks that tear up the streets and all that stuff. Our employees are gig economy employees, just like Uber drivers. We hire them on a part-time basis. They make a pretty good wage, about $25 per hour, and they use their own vehicles to pick up the materials.
Thank you. Council, is there any further questions?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr.
I
Seaman.
think you had did you have an informational booth at the Plan Exchange or at one of the farmers markets? I'm not sure.
Was it at the beginning of the year?
Yeah.
So this program predates me. I was not here. I did not set this program up. Somebody else did from the company. So it may have been another representative from the company that did that.
So I don't know, like we had, like August 4th, we had a rolling food truck farmers market on Dustin Road. And, a lot of those people that come there that are interested in produce and so on, they might be possible customers. You might be able to talk to somebody about getting a table or something there, then it's part of your marketing approach.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. For myself personally, I'm scheduled out. Like I was telling Ms. Evans that I'm, in another state, in another city, in another city council meeting at least once a week around the country because so many people. Over the last 18 months to 2 years, over 110 municipalities canceled the programs, and we all know why. I mean, it's it's a tough decision to make.
Thank you very
It
much.
seems like it's, like the market doesn't accept newspaper. That was one big thing, and it's changing. I guess the market changed, and I think that's why the cities kind of backed out because it might have been going in the landfill,
That's a horrible situation in some municipalities around the country where some residents may think that materials are being recycled, and then they find out when the truck comes down the street and the same truck picks up their recycling bin and their trash bin, and they say, well, what's going on? Oh, it's going to the incinerator. Oh, it's going to the landfill. First and foremost, we're an environmental firm.
Sure.
So if that was ever the case, we just could not operate in that location. And secondly, we're an environmental technology firm. So we use technology like Uber to do all the routing. And then we also have a great relationship, a familial relationship with night transport. So the other thing that caused a lot of problems with municipalities was that a lot of MRFs were closing, local MRFs. So they had to transport things 2, 3, 4, and 5 hours, and the expense of that is out of this world. So we have that relationship that allows us to do things at a cut rate, to move, if we need to move things hours away.
Thank you
so
for
much.
coming.
Appreciate it.
We're gonna jump into the meeting and we will come back to the persons and delegations here briefly, but we want to get through some of the items that are before us. So be prepared, we will come back to the persons and delegations, but we want to get going on some of these things. We do need to add items 85 through 88 of 2021 to this evening's agenda. These items would need to be added because we did not have committee the whole meeting last week. And council, item number 89 is getting pulled and that will be presented to us at another time. So can I get a motion to
Mr.
move
President?
85? Yes, Mr. Seaman.
Yes, I'll do that. I had items 85 through 88 of 2021 to this evening's agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reed. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, items 85 through 88 are added to this evening's agenda. We're going to start with number 85 being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Police Chief Mr. Brandon Began. And Chief Began?
Thank you, Mr. President. We are currently in year 3 of a 5-year deal to replace all of our portable radios for all the officers within our city. They are Motorola radios. The normal price on them is $3,025 a piece. We're about just below halfway through replacing all those. The reason for the replacement is the old radios that we have now and still have some of them in use is Motorola will no longer be servicing them in the upcoming years. And we're in year 3 of 5, and we have budgeted for $50,000 per year. to replace about 10 radios per year on average. Because Motorola is trying to push out the new radios, they are cutting the price down for Lucas County pretty much in half. So it's $1,513 as opposed to $3,025 a piece. In addition to all the other amenities that we need added to the radio, including the wireless mics and microphones and all that, it's all about half price. So if we spend an extra $30,000 this year on top of the 50 that we have budgeted, for a total of $79,988, we will be able to complete the entire change out this year. And we will not have to spend the money in the next 2 years, which we're planning on having 100,000 budgeted. So it'll be a total savings of approximately $70,000 to get this done this year.
Thank you, Chief Began. Council, is there any questions for the administration on item number 85 of 2021?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Zale.
this is a no-brainer. I mean, we're going to save half the money on these portables, spending the money this year. I think this is a great deal for us.
Thank you, Mr. Zale. Council, is there any further questions for the administration on item number 85? Hearing no further questions, I'll assign item number 85 with ordinance number 85 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Authorizing the mayor and finance director to issue a purchase order to Motorola Solutions Incorporated, 1301 East Algonquin Road, Schaumburg, Illinois, for the purchase of portable radios to be used in the Oregon Police Division.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Zale.
I move for passage of ordinance 85, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Polliff. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 85 of 2021?
Mr. Zale?
Yes.
Mrs. Polliff?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes. Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 85 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Move to item number 86 of 2021. Item number 86 is being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Public Service Director, Mr. Paul Roman. Mayor?
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. President. And also, you're aware our water distribution does most of their repairs, if not all of them, really close to the road. And it can get a little hairy when somebody isn't paying attention, and if they would run into those people working. It's a safety device, and I believe it's just taking care of our employees and our equipment. Mr. Roman has other things he could add, but I've been out on the side of the road when they're there before. And the cars come by, it gets a little hectic.
Mr. Roman?
There's been some close calls and accidents in the past. So one of the reasons we put it in the budget here, this purchase is the state purchase program. We try to get another quote just to see if we can get a lower price. State purchasing price is the lowest. It also includes an aerial board and direct traffic as well.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Councilor, any questions for the administration on item number 86 of 2021? Hearing no further questions, I'll sign item number 86 with ordinance number 86 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Authorizing the mayor and finance director to issue a purchase order to Site Safe LLC, 1714B Harmon Avenue, Columbus, Ohio, for the purchase of one SMT trailer mounted MASH compliant attenuator and one Arrowhead MB515 to be used by the Water Distribution Division in the Department of Public Service in an amount not to exceed $28,232.94 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Ms. Polliff.
I move for passage of ordinance number 86 of 2021 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Polliff. Second by Mr. Reeves. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 86 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mrs. Polliff?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves? Yes. Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance number 86 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Move to item number 87. Item number 87 is being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Public Service Director, Mr. Paul Roman. We're going to go directly to Mr. Roman. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is needed to replace approximately 800 feet of 8-inch water line on Wynn Road, just north of Star Extension. this section of water line is prone to breaks, and it was scheduled to be replaced in 2025. Line is about 57 years old. But due to the construction of Eden Park Villas, Department of Public Service felt it would be prudent to replace this section before 2 new roads are placed over the old line. And they need to make an open cut on Star, and we can do that before we pave Star Avenue this year. So Ohio Excavating is the contractor for the Eden Park Villas. But we went out and received other quotes. They were still the lowest out of the 3 quotes, and even with their quote, they had fees for making 2 taps for the subdivision. We had to remove that cost because that should be the developer's cost, and the price was even lower. So it's wise to do this at this point and just take advantage of them being there. They're already on site, so you have a lower cost. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Roman, I see this is an 8-inch line, and they're going to have 2 8-inch taps into this line. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And
But they're
that
going to make it
loops
to
the
the new
neighborhood,
line.
right?
Yeah, and then it gets looped to Star Avenue then. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Council, is there any questions for the administration on item number 87 of 2021? Hearing no further questions, I'll assign item number 87 with ordinance number 87 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Authorizing the mayor, director of public service, and finance director to issue a purchase order to Ohio Excavating Incorporated, 9339 West Bancroft Street, Holland, Ohio, to provide labor, materials, and equipment for the replacement of an 8-inch water line along Wind Road from Star Avenue Extension to Noah Lane in an amount not to exceed $45,000 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Ms. Powell.
I move for passage of ordinance number 87 of 2021 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Powell.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reeves. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 87 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mrs. Pollock,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
Yes.
Mr. Davish,
Yes.
Mr. Horniak.
Yes.
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck,
Yes.
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 87 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Move to the final item this evening, item number 88 of 2021. This item is being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Fire Chief Mr. Denny Hartman.
Start and just say I'm pretty excited to see this get here this soon. At one time, we believed, or it was said that we wouldn't be able to start construction this year. This will prove that we can. Go to Chief.
Chief Hartman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, as the mayor said, it is a very exciting day for us. Moving forward in our ever-changing fire department. But we had 7 bids for this contract. Again, we had 7 bids. The lowest bid is Midwest. They're a kind of a local company that the Bureau Group has worked a lot with, has worked in the city. Very confident in them, come highly regarded and recommended. The bids to our, I guess I say to our delight, came in well below what the bid estimate was. And this time, when we're so concerned about cost, materials cost, we're very happy. We're very happy with the bid. Obviously, we'd always like to have it be lower, but we're very happy with the bid and very happy with the bidder. So it's certainly our recommendation to award this contract.
Thank you, Chief Hartman. Chief Hartman, as we move forward with the new fire station, and I was talking with Chief Wolf before this, we need to make every effort to honor and acknowledge the people that have contributed to the fire service up to this point. As we celebrate the new beginning of a new fire station, you know, a lot of people sacrifice a lot of time and effort to get us to this point.
Absolutely.
And we have to make sure that we honor those people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Council, is there any questions for the administration on item number 88 of 2021? And then people in the audience, we do have some picture boards of what the fire station is going to look like. Council, I'm not sure if I think everybody has seen the renderings of what it is. But if you want to get up and look after the council meeting, there are pictures of what the fire station is going to look like. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that.
It's in the packet.
And it is in our packet also, yes. Council, is there any further questions on item number 88 of 2021? Here, no questions. I will sign item number 8 with ordinance number 88 88 of 2021, and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans?
Accepting the bid of Midwest Contracting Incorporated, 1428 Alban Road, Holland, Ohio, for furnishing labor materials and equipment for the Oregon Central Fire Station 2021, plus alternate bid items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10, and 11. Authorizing the mayor, fire chief, and finance director to enter into a contract with said contractor and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council. Mr. Zale.
I move for passage of ordinance 88, 2021 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Zale. Second by Ms. Polliff. Ms. Evans, would you please take roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 88 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Zale? Mrs. Polliff?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes. Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 88 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. That ends the items for consideration and passage this evening, and we will move to the persons and delegations. We have 3 people signed in today. The first person is Mr. Steve Solander. Steve, if you'd step up, say your name and address for the record, please.
Hi there, Steve Solander, address 2435 Eastvale Avenue here in Oregon. I just had a couple questions here. I know over the last, I don't know, maybe 4 to 6 weeks, wherever, since we've been talking about the whole wetlands project. And I think that's something to be proud of. Even just personal experience for myself. When I worked for a local business down here on Navarre Avenue, there were several times in which we had to call for police. We did use non-emergency because it wasn't life-threatening. But before I even had hung up the phone, we had 2 squad cars in our parking lot. So they're very prompt, and it was good to know that. You know, and it's a huge selling point for Oregon. I know for myself included, it was one of the big reasons why I decided and I chose to move to Oregon as opposed to other places around the area. You know, it's just one of the things, like I say, selling points, along with the wetlands, of course, and our nature out here as a selling point of the city. And because I'm sure most of you or many of you have probably heard on the news and on the local media that there's been some issues and some concerns with our Lucas County dispatch. Some of those reports and some of those concerns have been high turnover. Our dispatchers, those dispatchers having to work long hours, you know, sometimes 12 to 16 hours. The vacation being bought so that they're on the hours or on the clock even more so. You know, and all that has been a concern. And all this being done to help their staffing concerns. They've had huge turnover. Like I say, they're down dispatchers even from where they were when the whole consolidation thing began. And obviously, like I say, that's a concern. And that's causing things like calls being put on hold, where they're not getting answered promptly. A delayed dispatch of the emergency services. And I want to stress, first of all and foremost, that this is at no fault to the police and fire and EMS that are dispatched by them. Not even at fault. There's no blame really even of the dispatchers themselves. but fault of the management of the dispatch. So, I mean, you've heard, and in many of these news stories, and I've heard from personal conversations with local dispatchers as well as ones that work down at Lucas County, that they're concerned that they are feeling they are almost at a breaking point. And they have some concerns about safety issues due to these concerns. So while these issues are happening right now, approximately 2 months from now, in October, we're scheduled to consolidate our dispatch and all of our calls in with the rest of Lucas County. So I have 2 questions. Number one, as our leadership, you have pushed back. Have you done any pushback, or has there been any pushback on the timeline of this consolidated dispatch to give them time to fix some of those issues so we're not thrown into the mix with those issues? Because obviously, and I know on all of your hearts as well, as also being citizens of our city, I know the citizens' safety is one of your primary concerns, as well as the safety of our responders, as we just talked about, the fire department and our police officers. Your safety is also important. So has there been any pushback? Have any of you, either together or independently, had any conversations with Lucas County or any pushback on this timeline to protect, again, our dispatchers, protect our responders, and to protect our citizens?
Mr. President.
Mr. Zale.
Steve, you know we've done pushback here. You know that our council actually did a resolution that we oppose this to happen.
Okay, I'm not talking about what was done before.
Well, you have to, because this is a law in the state of Ohio that we can't.
I understand. I'm not saying that anything's going to be changed.
The timeline is set up by the voting block within Lucas County that we had one minor vote in.
I understand that. I understand that.
So they set a timeline. We can't push back on that.
So you're just going to
There's
roll
no
over.
reason to push back on that as far as I'm concerned. You've got to move forward because it's going to happen.
So
What
the
would
answer to
change?
that, the
What
answer to
would
that is
change?
you've done nothing.
What
Correct?
would change if you delayed it?
They need to get those types of things in order, so that they need to get their staffing issues and their issues in order before we get thrown into this. And when your family or my family calls on the worst day of their lives, we want there to be an answer, like we're experiencing right now.
Well,
and like we're enjoying right
believe
now.
when some of our dispatchers and other dispatchers within the other jurisdictions of Lucas County go down there if they wish to, that will help some of the employment problem that they have down there.
Well, they might get back to, if they're lucky, back to where they were.
Yeah, they might.
So, but we're going to be adding calls onto that.
They might. But we don't have any power here. We have no power here to tell Lucas County to push this back.
So what your answer is then is you have not done anything.
Since the vote to make this go forward, no.
Mayor?
Although I will have to say, I had to get, Mr. Wallen, I had to give you credit though, at least also, because I know last year when there was still some I guess you can call it pushback on the setup of it and the leadership of it, you were the only one to show up. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
At least you did something, and I appreciate that. So thank you.
But what I would like to ask is either the mayor or our chiefs, what has the conversations been with Lucas County Dispatch? And what is your experience and what are your understanding of what's moving forward? Mayor?
I'll start and then I can go to the chiefs. When you were talking about different problems or experiences, that's Toledo Dispatch is where they're experiencing problems. Just like we experienced some problems in our dispatch too, that we believe needed to improve. And through the 911 consolidation, just as Toledo's will be improved, we believed ours would see that improvement also. So I think it's not fair to say we are joining into the Toledo Dispatch. Toledo's joining in.
I didn't say Toledo.
Well, you sort of did.
Lucas County. It's Lucas
All right,
County.
but
It's technically it's the COG. I understand
All right.
that, but for all of
It's-
us, Lucas
I'll-
County. It's words, as it were. I'm sorry.
and I'll go to the chiefs.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I can answer some of the questions on that. Yeah. Okay. We are in the process of getting everything sorted out down at the county. It is a massive undertaking. I can say, yeah, we're nervous about what's gonna happen when it goes down there with anything new, when things switch from what we have to down there. But we have meetings pretty much weekly, and try to work through, try to determine what problems may occur and solutions to those problems before anything happens or before anything goes down there. From my last understanding of, we will be one of the last dispatch centers to send our employees down there, one of the last two. I don't know what the other agency was, but that will be in November is the timeline for that. So I can tell you that all of the chiefs, all the different agencies, multiple members from other agencies are trying to work through everything to make sure that it is as smooth as possible going down there. And yes, I do agree with you that it is going to be a change from what we have in the past. We like our dispatchers here. They do a lot for us. We understand that. We appreciate their service. And the majority of our dispatchers are going down to the COG, but there are a few of them that will not be. But we are trying to go through that. We haven't asked them to push back any timelines from our standpoint, but we are working around the clock trying to make sure that it is smooth and it keeps the same level of service that we're used to out here.
I thank you for that. And like I say, I mean, I want you guys to be safe too, you know, so you guys rely on the dispatch also for conversations and if you have needs as well. So it's important for all of us and you included. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, so I said, I mentioned, I'm sorry, were there any other they wanted to answer on that? I just want to make sure before. Nope.
I think at this point, we're ready for your second question.
Okay, thank you. So you partially actually answered my second question. I was just curious, how many of our local dispatchers are going to be placed with the consolidated dispatch, and if there were any that were going to be placed within the city?
Chief Began.
Mr. President, we have one of the dispatchers that passed the typing test and will become a records clerk. I think is the official position name. Once the consolidation happens, there are everybody was offered a chance to take a job down at the COG. We had, I believe, 3 that may not go down there. And I don't think anything is even final. I know a couple of them said that they're definitely not going down there and they're pursuing other options. We have a few that are close to retirement that will go down there, sounds like for a pretty short period of time, and then they'll be able to retire from that new entity that they joined down there. But every single dispatcher had the opportunity to go down there and work. It was up to them if they chose to go down there or not.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
Counsel.
Thank you. Next on our list is Ms. Ackerman. Ms. Ackerman, if you could please state your name and address for the record, please.
Beth Ackerman. I live at 931 Bury Road in Oregon. I want to say that you're making me miss LeVar Burton as the first host, his first night hosting on Jeopardy, and I was one of the people that signed a petition to get him on there, so I'm a little upset with you guys. It's called a sense of humor. Get one. Anyway, so in the words of Mayor Safarian, I want to welcome you to Oregon. Oregon on the Bay offers visitors access to the shoreline of Lake Erie, Maumee Bay State Park, Pearson Metro Park, shopping, dining, and lodging. Oregon is conveniently located as a gateway to and from Lake Erie, the Lake Erie Islands, Cedar Point, and all of the attractions along the way. I thought that was nice. So anyway, much for the fun part. I want to ask if this is possible. And I ask everything, Mr. Beasley, Mr. Safarian, they get tired of me. Mr. Roman gets tired of me. So I want to ask each of the council persons here tonight, if the vote took place today, would you be in favor or opposed to changing any parcel east of Stadium to industrial? And I don't care what
Mr. Zale.
I'll go first. It would depend a lot on what the footprint of that building looks like. And really, to me, part of the problem that we hear every week is, and I don't know if you run this Facebook page, Save the Wetlands.
I'm one of the people.
So you keep saying on there that everybody on council there and the administration wants to destroy the wetlands.
I want to hear
Who
you
have
say you
heard
don't.
that? Who have you heard say that?
I guess absence gives consent because I've asked, okay, well, you're not
You've heard
speaking
anybody
out.
say that, but you've accused us of that in the paper.
Okay, so I
And
will
on the radio.
apologize. If I'm wrong about you, I will apologize right now. Are you opposed to impacting negatively those wetlands?
It depends on what the footprint of that establishment would look like. And we've gone on and on and on and said, we are opposed to disturbing our wetlands and thought that if we did something like that, we could avoid doing that.
Okay, so the zoning change would never occur until you already knew what building was wanting to go in
No, you
there?
wouldn't know. You might know, but then there'll be a zoning hearing where the public can decide whether that building's a good idea or not. We would listen to the public about it.
So you're okay with it changing an industrial designation east of Stadium Road? That's all I'm asking,
Like
simple.
what I just say. It
M1.
depends on what the footprint of that building looks like and how it's going to impact the area.
Okay, so,
And none of us know that.
all right.
None of us here know that.
So you're going to speak on behalf of everyone to say that you can't answer that?
I just did answer that.
Okay, all right, just wanted for a matter of record, we have to know where we stand because our people that we voted into office do not represent us.
Well,
And
no,
do
no,
not
we
speak to us.
absolutely do.
You
We
don't-
Absolutely do. And you keep accusing us of lying to you, of not being transparent. We've not lied to the public ever in my 8 years on council about anything. We've been totally transparent about everything. And like I said, none of us here know what's going to go there.
I didn't think we were going that route tonight.
Of course
we
we
were
are.
going there, but since March 16th, and then there's this huge gap before that where we have no communication. We have map after map of you guys not doing anything, nothing going on, you not having an opinion about what should be happening in Eastern Oregon. So again, lack of transparency. We had to file a Freedom of Information Act to find out what you were really doing. You call it what you want. So you guys are on the record as no one wants to come out and say, we're not in favor of any industrial east of Stadium Road.
Ms. Ackerman, I'll let you know that I would listen to anything that would brought up. I'm not going to say that I would vote yes or no because I'm not going to sit
Well,
and think of hyperboles. I need to listen. And if it's something that I don't think would fit in our community, then no, I'm going to vote no. But is there something that could work there? I don't know.
Right.
I would at least want to listen.
I just asking.
And
I mean,
I'm
that's
trying to
what
be
the
as truthful with you as I
citizens wanna Know
can.
what their council people believe. That's fair enough.
And again, I'm trying to be as truthful with you. And I
Yeah,
don't know the
appreciate
answer
that.
right now.
I appreciate that.
Mr. President,
Yes, Ms. Paula.
I have said quite a few times on this council that I do not want to destroy wetlands. As a matter of fact, I said at our last council meeting that I want to see how healthy these wetlands are. You said there was a delineation, and I know that you don't owe us any numbers or reports or anything, but I really do want to save the wetlands, and I really do think it's important, and I've said that a number of times.
Right.
But I'm still called a liar. I'm still called
When-
a wetlands killer. I'm still called someone who wants to destroy our wetlands. But are we going to be privy to any delineation that's done? What category do these wetlands fall under? Do
We're,
they need help? Do they need help? Are they pristine? Are they healthy? I've asked that question and I haven't gotten an answer.
well, since you haven't done your own delineation or an environmental assessment, we, the citizens, are paying for our own, and we're getting a professional business in Pennsylvania. We are at their mercy, as you all know, scheduling. We are paying thousands of dollars to have it done because, as in like the economic development meeting last Thursday, the environment wasn't brought up. In all of the information that we received from the Freedom of Information Act, the state of the environment was never brought up, discussed. There's not one communication regarding the state status of impact environmentally on this Project Maximus. So,
The last, excuse
and my
me.
understanding is you have to do your own delineation on it as well, because that's our intellectual property if we pay for it.
So, okay, I asked the question at the last council meeting, who's responsible for that wetland? And it was said here, it was private property. So do we just ask for a delineation on private property? We'll have to look into that. I mean, I am not versed as you are.
He knows.
But I'm not as versed as you are, but any information, I mean, if we're gonna be totally transparent, any information about the wetland should be shared with the community. Do you
When
feel
we-
that
When it
way?
gets done, we will definitely share it with the community, and when we'll show you ours if you show us yours. So.
No, that's fine, because I was
no,
under the
seriously, it's just not done
understanding,
yet. It's not done yet because we're at the mercy of.
I was under the
backlog.
understanding, I'm under the understanding with the research I've done, that delineations are usually done by the Army Corps of Engineers, but if
That's one
that's,
source.
so, you know, I want to see how healthy these wetlands are, because I am not a wetlands killer.
No, okay.
I want
appreciate
to
that.
be, I
don't
want to
you to
be
be one.
proactive. I want to be proactive because I'm the chair of the Water Wastewater Committee. I want our drinking water to be safe. How many years have we been dealing with Lake Erie and making sure our water is safe? And we are putting that water back into the lake better than what we found it. That's the goal for us. And you can't say that we're environmental killers when we do that. So I want to know, when have I lied? When have I ever threatened to destroy
I
wetlands?
never said that you did. I said
Am I a
the
council,
only
am I a
interaction
council
we
person?
had was.
Mrs. Ackerman, am I a
Pardon?
council person?
You
No, it was publicly said that
you and I
council.
have personal issues that aren't this we could talk about.
I'm not talking about personal issues. I am
Aren't we?
talking about what has been stated in a public forum, calling council members liars and those that want to destroy the wetlands. And I want to know,
If you were
when
part,
have I done that?
if you were part of backing this program without a single assessment of the environment, then that's what you are. I mean, if you back this, if you
And what
back this
program?
plan,
And
if you said this
You're
is
holding the
necessary,
papers. What programs are you talking about?
Project Maximus, if you were any part of any of this project, any of the possibility of a battery plant, anything that the public didn't know about, then you can say what you want now, but there's nothing, no one, and when I asked you to, you were my council person. You were the person I voted for. You were the person I reached out to that I felt closest to get an answer. And you told me nothing was going on.
I did not
Until-
tell you nothing was going on.
You did.
At
You
the-
did
at the-
until I pressed you on it and you said, you opened this up to this discussion. You said, we knew they were looking in Eastern Oregon.
No, you had taught this conversation, and excuse me, I am sorry that we are going into this again. We had a discussion, you approached me at the Plan Exchange and you started hammering me with all these questions, and I'm going to reiterate it again. I did not know what you were talking about. I was not familiar about the Maximus project or this project.
At what
You're
point did
talking
you
again.
become aware of it?
The next Monday, when I told you that I had spoke to the mayor and the city administrator.
And told me all
and
about
then I
Project Maximus,
called
then you
you.
disclosed to me
And then
what
I
all you found
called
out.
you and told you what I said. And I told you everything I knew because that's when I found out about it. And that is what I've told you before.
And my phone still works, and at any point, I shouldn't have had to get the Freedom of Information Act to find this out. I should have gotten it from my council person.
So did you see any of that in my email when you got that Freedom of Information Act? Did you see any of that information
I
in my
see
emails?
no council people involved because
Then why are you going after the council people and saying that they're
you're
the
our
ones that are
council
doing it?
people. You vote
But
on things.
if we're not given that information because it's
Then
not
why
at
do we
that
have council
process yet,
people?
if it's not at that process yet, it only started.
You voted for 060 to give an undisclosed amount of money until the ordinance came out for $200,000. We found out for an undisclosed location at the time. And my understanding is you all were filled in on what that was about.
And what was it? What was that location?
I still have, again, I have applied for Freedom of Information material. We still don't know because we're not told. So if our council people don't look out for us and tell us what's going on, I guess we're just, but I'll tell you what I did find out. Are you done or you got more? Or?
No, I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay, good. So what I'm hearing a lot about is progress and how we're standing in the way of progress. Tom Souser, former councilman, is very proud of the fact that he's known about this project well before any of our standing council members knew about it. He's been very open about that to people. I'm very proud of it and says very proudly, it's progress. It's progress. And he, okay. So I've been told you're just in the way of progress. So I thought it was interesting because I believe in, I believe in responsible land use, and I wouldn't call myself against progress, but I found this in the Center of American Progress on their website. To tackle climate change, we must reform land use. And no matter where you stand with electric cars, if you're for or against them, but the push having been electric batteries for cars and lithium batteries and all the danger that is involved in that. But that's a whole nother, you could take a college course about it. But I thought it was interesting that in this, plea for, from the Center for American Progress, this is dated July 22nd, 2021. In addition to electrification, there is an emphasis on fixing transit, buses, et cetera, which I don't know how feasible that is out here, but biking, walking, so trails and all that, what you guys are working on, which is awesome, and encourage infill development, which is what you're doing with the town center, which is great. So you're working on fulfilling those things. Then it says, taken together, more mobility choice and denser land use would reduce both the frequency and distance of trips made by driving alone. I mean, that's what happens. You build houses right next to stores and people can ride their bike, etc. So, moreover, these changes would significantly reduce the pace of new development on greenfield land, which provides essential environmental services, including absorbing CO2, providing wildlife habitat, and mitigating flood risks, among other critical services. Climate change cannot be addressed without reforming land use, and land use cannot be changed without reforming transportation. When we say this, we get treated like we're just bumpkins. So I thought maybe some people that believe in progress would believe the words of the Center for American Progress. Now I want to get on to the part that's kind of like a root canal. I really hope that this will rectify itself. I really hoped when I learned about it, I was going to stay out of it. And I wanted cooler heads to prevail. I wanted people to act responsibly. I wanted people to speak out about it, not me, not the big mouth. Nothing's been done. So as I watch someone being punished, being persecuted, being almost ostracized by their community, I just feel like it's time. It's just time we get this out there. So
Go ahead, please proceed.
Oh, no. So this is what we're going to be putting on our webpage this evening. Friends, back on June 23rd, we issued a statement indicating why we are so passionate about saving the wetlands and some of the hurdles we are up against. We stated that we had supporters who wanted to remain anonymous for fear of retaliation against their businesses. One of our supporters who is directly affected by this proposed industrial zone is Frank Ozansky. Frank owns a small business which employs 10 union employees in downtown Toledo, Lucas County. He is a He is a union shop. These documents are very
Ms.
disturbing
Sacrament,
to us.
Can I ask you for a moment?
Mr. Horniak, go ahead.
I know exactly where you're going to go with this, and you're about to paint everybody into the exact same corner. I think this is relevant not to
You don't know
everybody.
what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Because the people have a right to know that this is happening to this person, because if it were happening to any of you or your businesses, you'd be standing here doing the same damn thing I'm doing. But what I'm coming to you with is, I'm asking you to change this, to make the difference. This is all due to okay, on July 14th, we all were in this room together, and union reps were here, and apparently upset them. It upset the lady here. And my answer to her was, we are not against the unions. We are not against American manufacturing. We are not against American workers. We just don't believe that you tear up you don't tear up something that is a kidney and filters carbon and our water, everything, to create jobs. You need to do that in brownfields. You need to do that in existing areas that are already marred by industry. So I can get why you guys are upset about this, but people have a right to know, because this is who you're doing business with. This is who you guys brought to the table, okay? This is who is pushing. This is the drive behind this entire project. And I'm sorry. And
I understand.
I believe what you told me. I do believe that.
Yeah.
I want to say, we all have a right to know as citizens, because we on Save Our Wetlands have family, have friends that belong to unions, are tradespeople. Most of us are blue collar. I do not want to be, you talk about being painted into a corner or whatever. We are being treated, and that was the whole goal, was look like you're against jobs, against progress, against manufacturing in the United States. Anybody that knows me knows damn straight that is not me. I don't want to sell our land. I don't want any American land sold to foreigners, foreign entities. I think it's wrong. That's my opinion. But the point is, this is what's going out right now. I mean, I think it's already out now, probably. I didn't put it out there, but these documents are very disturbing to us and should be very disturbing to you. Don't think I'm not scared to death saying this, okay? I grew up in Toledo. I have been here my whole life in Lucas County. I know what I'm about to say is going to ruffle feathers, but I'm going to not cuss. We have had our lives turned upside down by what you guys want to do out there in Eastern Oregon. Everything we believe in that makes Eastern Oregon special, that balances the heavy commercial, industrial, residential, it's a balance. And we truly believe, and Frank Ozansky truly believes in preserving these wetlands. When you say wetlands, yeah, okay, that's one word. But it's a really long sign to say, and Lake Erie and the bird migratory path and everything that's special about the environmentally special about us out here. So Frank took it on himself. I had nothing to do with it. He designed the sign, he printed the signs, and he absorbed every effing cent of the signs. And I never put one in a yard that someone didn't request it. Now, Mike said maybe somebody pranked or whatever. Hell, I had 50 campaign signs in my yard one time because kids pranked us. So, I'm sorry if that happened to anybody, but I have not forced one of these signs in anyone's yard. And if any of you see one in a yard, that individual stands for government transparency and protection. That's us, the regular citizens, being the voice we don't have on council, being the voice we don't have in this room. And so this makes me so sad for Frank. I didn't even know Frank before this started. I met him one time here, and we were on opposing sides. I don't even know. I mean, I don't really even know Frank. I've gotten to really respect and admire Frank for taking a stand and watching his business suffer because he's being bullied. He's being persecuted because he wants to save the environment. He's not out there saying, or none of us are saying, we don't want, we want someone else hired for that job, but none of you. We're saying the right build in the right location. And God bless y'all. I hope y'all get jobs doing it because Northwest Ohio is a big damn place. But to tear up the environment to do it is wrong. And let's just pull the Band-Aid off. If you have the Lucas County Democratic Party President Michael Ashford and Treasurer Mike Hart advising candidates to cease doing business with Clear Images because they made signs for our cause, what are we up against? They appear to be telling Mr. Ozansky what opinion he can have and who he can do business with. And it's telling you people that are endorsed Democrats who you can work with. And that's not fair to you.
Ms. Ackerman, and I'll tell you, I'm not listening to them. I was down at Frank's.
I know, and
I
you
was down
told me
at Frank's
that,
shop
and that's
last
what I'm telling
Friday.
him. I'm not
yeah.
saying, but you still
So-
haven't reached out to Frank.
I have. I was down at his shop on Friday.
He
just
told
ha-
me he has not spoken to you.
He wasn't there.
Okay.
I sat and talked to his daughter and his future son-in-law for about an hour.
Well, I hope to God, Dennis, that the rest of the people that are running as endorsed Democrats in Lucas County have the testicular fortitude that you
And like I
have
told you,
to
Frank
not.
Frank has been a
I
family.
put it nice.
I like that.
Frank has been a family friend.
Right.
I will always thank him for what he did to my father or for my father when my father was ill. I used to rent space from Frank. Frank and I go way back, and Frank will always be a friend, and I will always use Frank.
I hope he always feels that way about you,
Well,
after him finding out the way he did about this, what was going to happen to our end of the city.
Yep,
What
that's fine.
I'm saying is you make an assumption about where I'm going with this. I didn't want to get involved in the politics of this at all because we have a huge bipartisan base of people. Our people are of every political persuasion, everything. They're young and old and all, so I was like, I don't want to get, but when this man out of his own pocket prints these damn signs up and refuses to take any money, and we had people offering us, and I said to him, Frank, let me give you the money, let's collect it and let's get you paid. And then you can go back to the top dogs and say, well, I just did a job for these people. I just ran some signs for them. And he had the integrity to say, no, I have every right to represent this. It's my constitutional
And
right.
there's nothing wrong with him having an opinion.
Right. But he's being, as you well know, and so what I'm hoping and sharing this is, I'm not condemning every Democrat running for office because you guys didn't send the letter out. Your leadership did. And you need to go back to your leadership and say, this man has constitutional rights. This man has a right to defend the environment without being persecuted. So I just want to say we are very pro-business in the current Oregon industrial area and proposed downtown district. We are against disrupting and destroying federal forested wetlands to add more industry to our community. We want to know where that balance is because from the day I ever got up here the first time, you don't think I'm not afraid of these union guys? I grew up in Toledo. I know what that means. And they're not the regular joke. They're not our parents, our brothers, our sisters, and our neighbors. They work union jobs and they bust their ass and they come home. These are the goons at the top that want to, manipulate things. I'm not calling out everybody on that. You guys clean house. You guys figure it out. But the public has a right to know that every damn one of those signs, that man is being threatened and people being told not to do business with his business. I know you all know that's wrong. And I'm sorry, I tried to find as delicate a way to approach this, and I'm not even going to read that letter, okay? But, and those of you, I got copies of those of you that didn't get it in your email. I got a copy if you'd like to see it. I don't even know how the heck we came about to getting it because we knew it existed because people were saying, hey, Frank, guess what? I can't do business with you. But everyone's afraid. Everyone's afraid of every connection Mr. Beasley has. Everyone's afraid of every union connection. Everybody runs around. I'm getting too old for that crap.
And
Make
Ms.
a
Ackerman,
martyr out of
and
me.
Ms. Ackerman,
I don't care.
I believe that every endorsed Democrat or any person that's running has a right to do business with Frank Ozansky. And I believe everybody on this dais will be doing
I
business
think you
with Frank
care about
Ozansky.
Frank. I really
Frank's
do,
a good guy.
Dennis. I really do think you
Frank
care
is a good
about
guy.
Frank. But you can't see, I can't ignore what's happening to him because he's got one guy that cares about how his business operates or what is fair to him. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't, I tried and I wanted people to step up and quash it and it not be an issue for Frank. So when I asked Frank, well, how's it going? Are you seeing any, which this could be a civil suit because Frank's losing business. I mean, people are saying, you know, like, hey, I'm being told I can't do business with you. And that's illegal. So, I mean, if you said, hey, I don't want to buy my signs from Frank, that's between you. But when someone else who's taken money to go and say, you will not go and do business with that person because one of the people who was present at that meeting said, I was at the meeting where it was explained by Ashford that we were to stop using clear images because they were printing the Save the Wetland signs for Oregon citizens, many of whom are Democrats. Of course, the building trades played a big part. That is the statement that came with the, and you know what? That's you guys go get that figured out, but the public has a right to know what Frank is enduring to defend something he believes in. And if one of you even thinks he's doing it because he's a NIMBY, this guy is going to the mat for this. He doesn't need to do this. He doesn't need to suffer financially because he believes in protecting water and air and birds. And so with that, you know, like I said, anybody wants a copy, you didn't see it, you need proof, you think I'm blowing smoke,
Can I get a copy of it?
I know you've seen it.
Not what you just read.
Oh, no, that was the letter that's going out on our site. Does anybody else want to see one, or you just take my word for it?
I'll take your word for it. Mr. President, if I may answer one thing to that.
Yes.
And Ms. Ackerman, the point I was making is, I'm not affiliated with that organization in any method whatsoever.
I know.
I've never spoken to Mr. Ashford. There are other members of this council that are in the exact same boat. That was the question or the point I wanted to raise. The council did not direct or have that conversation. And I, as a council member, have never spoken to Mr. Ashford. I've bought my signs from Clear Images, and you know what? I bought them from DGGI down in Bowling Green before it was even Clear Images and Frank owned that business.
He does signs. This is the crazy part.
I understand that.
He does
I
signs for
just want to make
everybody.
clear, the organization you're talking about, there are
Mhm.
several members of council that have
I know that.
absolutely no affiliation.
I know that.
And they should have the
But I
opportunity
can't-
of that also being part of the public record. We were not part of this dialogue or that direction.
But it stemmed from this room on July 14th and the
I
actions that you guys have taken.
I
to
do not
develop
disagree with
Project
that.
Maximus has resulted in where we are.
I do not disagree with that, Mr. Ackerman. I'm just trying to make it very clear.
I'm
Not
holding
everybody
you guys responsible
was
for that.
involved in that. And again, I've had on many occasions, and I believe you and I have had that conversation, but I can't remember ever talking about this, where I have heard about,
I
where
knew
I,
about this.
please let me finish. Where I've heard about this, my exact statement was then and always will be, nobody deserves to have their business put in jeopardy because they have an opinion about something. Whether it's on Facebook, whether it's anything, if it's not inciting a public riot, everybody's allowed to. You and I have had this conversation. Engagement with the community, anybody who doesn't enjoy the engagement with the community shouldn't be sitting up here. That's part of it. Whether you agree, whether you disagree with what we say and what we do, the engagement is part of it. Not getting in and out of Kroger's without 4 or 5 stops, that's part of it. Someone agreeing or disagreeing, that's part of it. That's the engagement. And he should not only not have his business impacted, it's those folks that we as a council need to make sure that we're listening to and that we're communicating with and that we're having that dialogue, because that's how we understand what the community wants.
But you do realize though, the connection is the people that stand to gain the most money, some people that stand to gain the most money should Project Maximus come to fruition, are the people that have had a hand in creating that environment for Frank. And doing, and they were not, I mean, it's flat out, you know, Sean Enright was smart enough not to put it in an email, but told people the same thing. So I have too many union member, you know, family members, neighbors and all that I respect, that I know are hardworking suckers, and they don't deserve this. They deserve better leadership than this. But what I want you guys to know is that's where we're at with this whole wetland thing. That a man who just made some signs to promote the protection of our environment is being persecuted and his business threatened. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ackerman. And Anna Bushman. Anna? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Anna Bushman, 1440 South North Curtis Road. Mr. President, Mayor, Mr. Horiak, I attended your special economic development meeting. Thank you for the education, I guess, piece of that. But there was only a small piece that was mentioned about this industrial piece of Oregon. And so my question is transparency. So what are we looking at? How many properties are interested? How many property owners? I mean, I know Ms. Ackerman just asked me whether you guys are yes or no's. I'm asking, what are we looking at? How many people are interested in this still? How many acres are you still looking at?
Mayor?
I believe we're looking at roughly 365 acres.
So approximately how many parcels? How many owners?
5.
And as we got our educational piece at the economic development meeting about how land changes to be zoned and all of that, it doesn't matter at this point how many folks are telling you that this is not the right site, as I want to just state that again, this is not the right site. I'm like Ms. Ackerman, I don't have any problems with union jobs, I don't have any problems with jobs. This is just not the right site, and I just want to point that out. So 365 acres and approximately 5 landowners were still interested in this.
That's fair.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Before we get into our reports, I do want to set a public hearing. I do need to set a public hearing for Monday, August 23rd, 2021. This is for an extension of the application to SUE 157-18 for a special use in an R2 medium density residential zone district to operate a restaurant / tavern on parcel number 44-18527. It was previously approved by council with conditions on January 14th, 2019. The applicant owner is B.J. Larson, BJ's Hideaway Steakhouse LLC. The location is 506 South Lollendorf Road. We will have a public hearing Monday, August 23rd, 2021, here in council chambers at 7 p.m. on this SUE extension. I'll go to the mayor's report. Mayor.
I want to start by commenting on that BJ's Planning Commission, or when it comes here, the topic come up that BJ had put in a patio on which would be the south side of his building before he applied for a permit to put a patio on the actual east side, or the front facing Pearson Park. And at the Board of Zoning Appeals, it was denied. Restaurants are encouraged to have outdoor patios for not only smokers or people that might be COVID non-vaccinated people or whatever. They were encouraged, he was encouraged by the Board of Liquor Control to open a patio. So I would think it may come up at the public hearing for council to consider adding a condition allowing a patio on that side. And I thought, we were discussing it at the planning commission, but at the time, we had only 3 members there. We didn't have a full body, and we thought it'd be more appropriate to maybe introduce it at the council meeting to consider adding a condition for the outdoor patio, and even maybe as a trial basis, maybe to try it for a year, which if it was a year, we're gonna be coming to the cold months pretty soon by the time he gets to open. BJ wanted to open, having a little difficulty getting equipment from the suppliers to put new equipment in, and that's what's holding him up at the current time. But something I wanted to get an advance notice that we may bring that up. And so you'll hear about that, not at the midnight hour. You hear about it right now before it shows up when the date was set. So because without that there, he would have to go back to the planning commission and another application to add a patio. And I thought it seemed to be more appropriate, whether it's voted up or down, but to do it then versus have him go to the inspection office, apply for another visit to the planning commission for the outdoor patio.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. Horniak.
I have a question for the mayor, if I may, please.
Yes, sir.
Help me understand this a little bit better. So he put in an outside deck for use at his restaurant prior to getting permission to do so. It was denied, and we want to include this with permission in the special use exception consideration.
Yes. Yeah, it would take 6 votes of council to add the condition. Now, it was denied prior. It was in the front of the building. I believe it wasn't delivered very well. Like I said, if you with the right formula, might be a good idea. We haven't denied patios in any other restaurant. You know, they tend to be a new way of restaurants doing business now is sometimes they were only allowing people on.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I would request, as myself, and I would say I'm hoping other council members would want as well. I would like to get either the transcript from that meeting where it was denied. I would like to have a little bit more basis on the denial of
On
that
the-
exterior deck. At
The
time,
extra,
was
when it came to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
whenever it was denied.
Yes, that's where it was denied.
I think that's fair to have that consideration
Because-
prior. If that's going to be an addition made potentially to the SUE agreement, I would like to have
Well,
that in advance.
here's why things changed. When they applied for a patio permit, it was being treated as a non-conforming use. That's what the properties was listed in our zoning code as a non-conforming use. And to get a variation in the non-conforming use, the proper body was the Board of Zoning Appeals. With an SUE or a zoning change, whether the proper governing body would then become the Planning Commission and City Council. So we switched governing agencies when the zoning went from a non-conforming use to a special use.
So if an SUE is granted on the property, you're saying the non-conforming designation is no longer valid. The SUE is.
Right
the-
now, we would be operating under the SUE.
And it would
Because-
no longer be a non-conforming zoning.
Correct.
It would be an SUE
It'd be
zoning.
SUE, special use exception.
Council
Fair enough.
President,
Well,
maybe-
my request
maybe
would
I-
be for the.
Mr.
maybe I can
Gilmore?
Clear this up.
Mr. Gilmore.
It was a non-conforming use originally, and that's when they went to the Board of Zoning Appeal because they were going to increase their non-conformity. Okay, and you're not allowed to do that. So the proper body was the Board of Zoning Appeal where it was turned out. Now, this is a number of years ago. I'm thinking 5, 6 years ago, but I definitely give you that that case. We have the full minutes of it. You can read the whole thing. So what happened is that it went out of business for 2 years. It's lost its non-conforming use because once it goes vacant for 2 years, you lose that designation.
Of the non-conforming or the SUE? Because
Well,
an
no,
SUE was
Never had a
granted.
SUE.
No. So listen. just-
Mr. Gilmore.
no, hold on. So originally was non-conforming. It went vacant for 2 years. They lost their non-conformity because that's what the law says, okay? So at that time, it went to the Plan Commission for a special use permit, and then it was heard by you guys, shortly after that and approved with those conditions that didn't include a patio. And then it lapsed 2 more years because of COVID. They weren't able to open it. So now we're back here again for the special use. And now he wants to add the patio. I think that, does that muddy it up more or does that?
That's in essence what happened.
Mr. Gilmore, how many other restaurants have patios with houses right next door to them?
Well, in Oregon or all over?
Yeah, I'm talking about Oregon.
Or, yeah. Well, I can't think of any, but,
That's what makes this unique.
yes.
Well, not so much, because they
What, El-
moved the patio
El
from the front
Caminos?
to the side, and I've heard the people on that side didn't have a problem with it. Some people had problem with it just because they didn't want it open
point.
as a restaurant.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Reeves.
I think El Caminos is another one that has the patios
so does the
plus in the
Den.
Yep,
neighborhood.
you're
So is-
correct, in the Den.
And
Those are the three
Den
that I
and
know of.
Bealers.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, next. We got some resignations due to the hiring, a full-time status of Jeff Ellis and Craig Duncan. And then ask council's concurrence in accepting the resignations of Captain Jeff Ellis and Craig Duncan, effective July 18th. So they can start their full-time status with the city of Oregon, and ask council's concurrence in accepting those 2 individuals' resignations.
Thank you, Mayor Council. Mr. Zale.
Not on mine. Oh, yeah, and Dustin Eiler. That's the problem I have when I don't bring my glasses. So, yes, and Dustin Eiler. Thank
Mr.
you.
President, I concur with the mayor and accept the resignations of Jeff Ellis, Dustin Eiler, and Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Powell. Council, any objection? Here are no objections. Mayor Council concurs with the acceptance of the resignation of Jeff Ellis, Craig Duncan, and Dustin Eiler.
That I conclude my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Purpura.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Purpura. Mr. Roman.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Reeves.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Mr. Zale.
No report from the standing commission, Mr. President. Paul, I meant to call you today. The blinking traffic signal westbound on the bar going toward Lollendorf is completely covered with trees.
So westbound on the bar at Lollendorf, westbound on the bar. Okay.
I don't know if is that our responsibility?
Yeah.
I want to take a look at that. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Westbound of our at Lollendorf.
Thank you, Mr. Zale. Mr. Seaman.
Yes, I'd just like to remind everybody, all this for farmers market going at on Dustin Road from 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock. That's when we had the first one in July, was very successful, so looking forward to having that. We have a lot of vendors and people are very appreciative of it, so just a reminder of all this for. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Mr. Davish.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Davish. Ms. Powell.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Mr. Horniak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just reporting from the Economic Development Committee for Oregon City Council that met last Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m., probably 6:45 by the time we concluded. Just high level review. So, we did discuss the town center. We talked about the Economic Development Foundation. The RGP was here to do a presentation just on development and projects as they exist and come to them. Did talk a little bit about our land use at that point, and I think it was shared at that point, and as I will again, it's a conversation this community will continue for probably some time. The decisions will be closer at hand than I think any of us expect, because we know that right now is a time when a lot of people are looking. But the decisions will impact a longer period of time as we go. So hopefully that communication continues through that. So that's the report from my standing committee. I did have one other question, if I may, for our fire chief. So since we've started to the new program using kind of, I'll say, makeshift quarters at Station 1 and 2, how's it going so far?
Well, actually, our firefighter EMTs they're in the fire academy right now, so they're working Monday through Friday, 7 to 3:30. So they're not staying overnight, but the battalion chief, the guy that was here is one of our new battalion chiefs, Jason. They're sleeping in the quarters. It's as close to home as they can get, but so far so good. It's working out. It's not, obviously not an ideal situation, but we'll make do. And that's we adapt, improvise, and overcome. So.
Thank you, Chief Hartman. I appreciate that. With that, Mr. President, I conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. And I have nothing from my standing committee. Therefore, I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman. We had a lot of opportunities.
Possibly can.
Sure. Go right
Thank you,
ahead.
Bill Myers. I was here for what I thought, what turned out to be a very quick zoning change. I appreciate that for my son. And after hearing all of the conversations tonight, I guess I'm a little bit curious as to, there's supposed to be a big book back here someplace that says the Master Plan of 2025 Vision of Oregon. And as I remember correctly, being on that citizen committee for almost 2 years of my life, along with many other residents of this town that spent countless hours in that room discussing how we laid out the future development of the city of Oregon. And I know I'm getting older, and I don't remember everything exactly the way I used to, but I can swear we never talked about an industrial park in the northeast corner of Oregon. Ever was that considered. We discussed waterfront. We discussed Dustin Road. We discussed where agriculture should be protected. Anything east of, I wanted Wynn Road. I had to settle for Stadium Road. There were lots of areas that were discussed of where things were gonna go. West of Wynn Road, industrial park. That line could be fudged north and south to whatever ability it was to go. Now, it was originally the 2020 and Marge changed it to 25. Sounds to me like the first intention of 2020 was correct, because here we are at 2022 and apparently it's outdated. Now, we can say that it's just busy things and we make people feel good by participating in that. That was not the sentiment that I believe the citizens that participated in that thought that they were just being pacified. And I believe we spent well over $100,000 on that document. Now, that's not as much money today as it was 20 years ago. That's still a lot of money. I would suggest that council, Mr. Seaman, you were here. I would suggest you revisit that document before you're going to make massive changes in the makeup of the city of Oregon. And if that is truly the sentiments of the citizens of Oregon, that that's what they want to happen to our city, I'm only one. I'm all for that. But if this is something that we're trying to do in anticipation of a problem we might have, come on. Nobody runs a business that way. Not on a might.
Mr. President, and I really enjoyed working with you, Phil, and you did a lot of good work on that project. I remember all the time that we put into it, you're right. But one thing about a master plan, we said this several times too, master plan is not an absolute Bible. I mean, but it does tell us something, that's for sure, you're right, but I mean, it's not stone, not completely cast in stone. And number two, the pandemic has cut the city down financially significantly because the refineries aren't selling fuel for the airplanes. It's hurt the city significantly. The mayor administration is trying to go after.
And I
Now, those are two factors, the pandemic.
understand.
And it's not cast in stone, okay?
My whole
You have to
point
agree with
is,
that. Did you remember
if
saying that yourself?
yes, but if you're going to make a major, we're not talking about, are we going to put an apartment next to an R2? You're talking about a major change in the makeup of the city of Oregon. Once again, not for it, not against it, but the community ought to at least, you ought to get the pulse of the whole community before you make a decision like that. That's all I'm saying. Thank you. Sorry it took longer than I actually wanted.
Just I'd like to
Thank you,
respond
Mr.
to that a
Myers.
little bit. And Bill, we totally intended to. And we were getting pulse all the time. There are people that are against it. There are many people that are in favor or understand it. Let's put it that way. The last thing we want to do, I'll take the shots. I take a lot of them, but I would rather take the shots than split the community. But we are giving options because you said on what might happen, what likely could happen if we do not protect our finances, the city, and we wait till the midnight hour, it'll be too late. It'll be way too late.
Until you know whether everybody's willing to foot the bill a little bit more to keep the quality of life that they have, you can't make that assumption.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Myers.
You sort of can.
We do have a motion to adjourn. Second by Mr. Reeves. Council, are there any objections? Hearing no objections, meeting is adjourned.